The first memories I have of HIV was sitting in a cinema with my father on a Saturday afternoon in Melbourne, Australia. And the fact that I'm about to give you such specific details gives you an idea of the impression that was made on me. It was a Saturday afternoon at the Greater Union Cinema on Russell Street, and we were seeing a matinee of Harry and the Hendersons. And before the movie started, there was a public service commercial that came on the screen that was incredibly controversial at the time and still is, called the Grim Reaper commercial. And it started with sort of very dark, frightening sounds, a lot of clouds and smoke. And the first words that you heard in this very sinister voice was, at first, it was thought only gays and IV drug users. And that's how it started. And then you proceeded to see people being lowered into like a 10-pin bowling alley like they were pins. And you had a little girl holding her teddy bear, and you had a right cross-section of people. And then you saw the Grim Reaper with a bowling ball bowl this ball and knock, and soon everyone will be dead. So that's a horrible way to discover your sexuality and who you are. You already feel like there's potentially something hideously wrong with you because you identify as somebody who has feelings towards another male. But now on top of that, if you act upon those feelings, you're going to get sick and die. I was living in London at the time, and I had to... The clinic was just across Soho Square. My office was in Soho Square. And so I'd had conversations with my then boyfriend. We were in a long distance relationship. And there'd been a little bit of infidelity on both sides of that. You know, we were young. I was 27. He was 23 or 24. So, and he was in Japan and I was in London. So go figure. Things happen. And these little slip-ups came to light. So we had a very frank conversation and said, you know, well, we should both go and get tested and make sure everything is okay. So I had left my office on it was either a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, and crossed Soho Square October 3rd. So it's 13 years tomorrow. Walked into this clinic, the Dean Street clinic that I'd been to many, many times for sexual health checkups, rapid in the finger, and they said, you tested positive. I never sat in a corner and fell apart. They gave me the information and I said, okay, so now what do I do? And I think that happens a lot for people who get this kind of diagnosis, whether it's HIV or whether it's cancer. I think it's often harder for the people around us because they're powerless. But for those of us who get the news and who it's happening to, you either go, okay, I can sit in the corner and lose my shit, and that's okay too. But at some point you have to pick yourself up and go, what are we going to do? Weirdly, it sort of gave me a kick up the bum, to use an Australian expression, to go, maybe I should try this hosting thing again, which is what brought me out to Los Angeles. That and the boyfriend / ex-boyfriend was now back here in LA. And so I thought, well, if there's any chance of salvaging this, I should go. And I also very specifically remember thinking, I don't want to be an old man and look over my shoulder and think, what if? What would have happened had I have given that a shot? So it's funny. I think in a lot of ways, HIV, and it's people who don't have it don't get it. When a lot of us say it saved my life in a lot of ways, it pulled different things into focus and made me prioritize certain things. Certainly ran off the rails in other areas of my life, but I probably wouldn't have ended up here in Los Angeles trying to get back on track as a television host and a presenter and to where I am now if I hadn't have had the diagnosis. I wasn't public about my HIV status for a good 10 years. Friends, family, those I attempted to date and sort of would get somewhat close to being serious with, I would share the information with. But there was always a fear of somebody outing me. And there were certainly a few close calls. Again, I never lied about my status. I never outright said no, but I did dodge it. I'd thought over the years, plenty of times, one day I'd like to be able to use what I do for good, especially around HIV. But I just didn't quite know how to get there. And again, some of my closest and most well-meaning friends within the industry and quite senior in the industry would say, look, it's just not the right time. I was advised by the most well-meaning people to keep my mouth shut because I didn't want to become known as, do you really want to be known as the guy with AIDS on television? And again, these were well-meaning people, and that's why I kept my mouth shut about my status for a good 10 years, especially in this country. So I was inspired to go public by this Instagram feed called the AIDS Memorial that I'd been following for quite some time. And their whole motto is, what is remembered lives. And it's a wonderful feed on Instagram where people post pictures and tell stories of people we'd lost. I lay there on my bed and I was scrolling through and I was looking at the Instagram feed, and then I looked at the pictures and I thought, oh, no, okay. And I let my fingers do the talking. This is what I sent into the AIDS Memorial, and this is what I posted on Facebook. Hi, I'm a 37-year-old HIV positive man who's been POS for almost 10 years. I work in television and on the side of the camera where, for better or worse, it's considered taboo for people like me to be like me. For 10 years, I've struggled with do I or don't I? For 10 years, the stigma and industry professionals have said, don't, it'll ruin you. But here's the thing, I'm me. I'm just like you. I have a big heart and I want to be loved and accepted. I may be on TV from time to time, but at the end of the day, I'm just an average guy who wants what we all want, to be accepted and loved by our friends and family, and to be encouraged by our peers. So here's what I say. Stand tall and stand proud. You can't make everyone happy, but you can make you happy. And so long as you tell the truth, you'll never have to remember anything. Labels are things that come and go, but your dignity and who you are is what defines you. I know who I am. I know what I stand for, and while in the past I may not have always had clarity, I do now. Love me or hate me, that's up to you. But for anyone who's ever doubted themselves because of those scary 3 letters and 1 symbol, let me tell you this. You are somebody who matters. Your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions count. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I'm Karl Schmid, and I'm an HIV positive man. Went to bed and woke up in the morning, and there were messages and, oh, it's nice. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I went to the gym, and then somebody had written an article and put it on Twitter. And then my phone just started to go crazy. And it just kept coming, and then suddenly it was the Hollywood Reporter, and then it was Variety, and then it was the Daily Mail, and then it was my friend going, what have you done? I told you not to do anything stupid. And then I immediately panicked and thought, oh my God, ABC's going to think I've done this as a publicity stunt, because I hadn't spoken to anyone about it, because I really didn't think, aside from a couple of people on Facebook, anyone would give a shit. Now I'm having this reaction, my God, I'm going to get fired. ABC's going to hit the roof, because this is now blowing up into quite a story. So, you know, I messaged my boss and I said, you have to know, I had no idea. And she was like, well, I was wondering when I was going to hear from you. She said, that's okay. That's what I figured. But yes, there's already been conversations across the board. She said, I just don't see how this is a news story anymore. And I said, I agree with you, but clearly it is. I don't think me being open about my status has changed the way I do my job, really. I think what it has done is it made me realize the level of internalized stigma that I had, that I didn't even know I had. You know, I used to make jokes. Oh, who wants to be with me? I'm damaged goods. And I would say it, and I certainly, in saying it, would mean it. I was kind of joking around. You don't want me, I'm damaged goods. You don't want this. I didn't realize the damage that was actually doing to me until I came out publicly, and until I learned about things like undetectable equals untransmittable. Undetectable equals untransmittable. That is to say that if you're HIV positive and you take your medicine and the viral load is so suppressed that it's considered undetectable, you cannot transmit the virus. There have been studies, thousands upon thousands and thousands of people, 1 negative, 1 positive, unprotected sex, lots of sex, no transmissions. Science, it's proven it. I'm happy to say, fast forward 2.5 years now since I came out publicly. First of all, I'm not the guy with AIDS on television, but I'm quite proud to be known as the guy with living with HIV. I'm quite proud to be able to stand up and say, look, I'm far from perfect. I make a lot of stupid mistakes. I've done a lot of crazy, stupid things that people have probably got pictures on their cell phones of. So I'm far from perfect, but I know who I am. And those three letters and that symbol, that little plus sign, are not going to they're not going to define me in the sense that they're not going to rule my life. I'm proud to wear the badge, but I hope that you can get some strength or encouragement from seeing it.